Welcome to the Art Project. If you're new here, please subscribe. If you enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. We're going to be talking about the principles of design. The principles of design are for basic purposes: contrast, movement, emphasis, balance, unity, rhythm, and proportion. In this video, we're going to talk about contrast. Contrast is a pretty important part when you're making art. It's a pretty important principle. In the way of metaphor, if you think about being in a dark room, the darker the room is, the less contrast that you have. In fact, if the room is pitch dark, you can't really tell the difference between anything. It's pitch black. And as you raise the lights, depending on what the lights are shining on, more and more things become visible, and you can see light hitting certain parts and shadows in other areas. So we're going to look at contrast and think about different ways that it can be demonstrated. Contrast quite simply means differences. So it doesn't just have to be light and dark, it can be other things. To study this and to practice this, I am creating 6 thumbnail sketches in my sketchbook. If you're following along, then the handout says to do 6 thumbnail sketches in your sketchbook. This first thumbnail sketch that I'm doing involves strictly value. I use a lot of ink and pen and ink and brush and ink. I like to paint, and so most of this is going to be done this way. And the first one was just a value. The second one is texture. Notice I have textures on either side and sort of a solid pathway in the middle. I then went back and added a little bit more detail to my textures. Kind of some snake scales there. On this third one, I'm going to contrast hard and soft edges. So towards the left of the picture, you'll see that there's a very hard edge between the blue and the white, and then on the right it was a little bit softer where the ink ran into the water. For this one, the contrast is organic and geometric shapes. So here on the bottom, I've created some organic shapes. By the way, if you don't know what some of these things are, just kind of look it up and learn. In order to keep the video brief, I'm trying to go over all of these things pretty fast, but you should know what organic and geometric shapes are. And so here I'm contrasting organic with geometric. The big point of this is that for contrast, you show differences in your work of art. And you don't have to stick with just 2 differences. You could have light and dark, as well as texture, as well as organic shape and geometric shape, all in the same picture. And this one, I'm contrasting warm and cool colors. And in this last one, I'm going to contrast big and small. So I've got really big circles and really small circles. Again, this is just me trying to think about different ways to show contrast in a work of art and be pretty specific about it. The second assignment in the handout that I give out is to create in your sketchbook, create a sketch or a simple drawing based on the theme. If you are in AP Art and Design, based on the theme that you've come up with, create a work of art that uses contrast. In other words, how can you use contrast to demonstrate or to create a work of art based on your theme or your sustained investigation or your subject matter, however you want to look at it. So a while back I did some other videos on AP Art and Design, and I had talked about using a dartboard as my sustained investigation. I had found a dartboard on the side of the road. It piqued my interest. I was very interested in the shapes, and I was interested in how I could abstract the dartboard to create works of art. And so I have decided to go back to that and further develop that idea. So right here in my sketchbook on the following page, after I did contrast and the 6 different types of contrast, I'm going to create a small work of art that demonstrates contrast. And so one way that I'm doing this is through color, warm and cool color, kind of the way I did one of the thumbnail sketches. I also am going to add some texture to this. When I looked my dartboard over, it was a cork board, and it had a lot of holes where the dart hit it. And so I decided to create some texture doing some holes. I also decided to do some texture of just like, not texture, sorry, to create some hard and soft edges and to create more painterly effect. I didn't want this to look like a very graphic, stylized dartboard. I wanted it to be sort of a work of art with a lot of interest in it. And I think that I can do this better in paint, but again, this is just a sketch in my sketchbook just to kind of get the idea. And so it turned out all right, but remember, it's just a sketch. So I'm going to finish it up here, and then the third assignment, which you won't see me do in this video, is to create a painting based on this particular sketch. These lines here represent sort of the rule of thirds. I divided my little thumbnail sketch here into 3 parts, horizontally and also visually. I didn't show the lines, but I also divided it up vertically using the rule of thirds, or the golden mean, or the golden ratio, to determine where I wanted the center of my dartboard, and I'm making a note of that there. I'm also at the bottom making a note that I'm using warm and cool colors and texture to demonstrate contrast for the theme that is my dartboard. I hope this helps. This is just contrast. There are many more principles of design, and I hope to create a video on each one that goes along with the worksheets in my Teacher Pay Teachers lesson plan. Thanks for watching. Go make some art.